big day. It's Thanksgiving at the Tappletons, of course the Tappleton family.
Mr. Tappleton, Mrs. Tappleton, Jenny Tappleton, Kenny Tappleton, and Grandmother Tappleton, and Grandfather Tappleton, and Aunt Hannah, and Uncle Fritz.
And most certainly, the turkey and the trimmings.
It was still dark when Mrs. Tappleton lit the oven and took a big turkey out of the refrigerator. Just then, someone knocked at the kitchen door.
It was Mike the milkman.
Good morning, Mrs. Tappleton. I thought you might like some eggnog for the whole day,
said Mike the milkman.
And Mrs. Tappleton reached for the eggnog, the turkey slipped from under her arm. Now, on a warmer day, this might not have been a problem, but this Thanksgiving day was quite cold, and the steps were covered with ice.
Before she or Mike could even think, the turkey had slithered into the yard.
Get it!
Shouted Mrs. Tappleton. Mike reached out, but the turkey scooted past him.
Hurry!
Through the gate and into the street.
Hurry, stop that turkey! Screamed Mrs. Tappleton. The milkman chased the turkey.
Mrs. Tappleton chased the milkman.
And the turkey slid down the hill into the pond.
Plop, splash. It bolted out of sight. When Mr. Tappleton came down to breakfast, he took a long sniff.
I don't smell turkey. Of course you don't smell turkey. You have a cold. She replied, I don't have a cold.
Mr. Tappleton insisted.
Mrs. Tappleton shook some pepper into the air. Her husband sneezed. Achoo! See, you do have a cold.
After breakfast, Mr. Tappleton put on his coat and his scarf and hat and robe.
I'm going to the bakery to buy our pies,
said Mr. Tappleton.
Where these? I know for a fact that it is quite slippery out today, said Mrs. Tappleton. Simmons' bakery was so crowded, the line reached out into the sidewalk.
Mr. Tappleton hated to wait in long lines, so he went to the diner for a cup of coffee.
By the time he got back, the long lines were gone.
And so were the pies.
No pumpkin, no mince, no rhubarb, nothing. Mr. Tappleton was afraid to go home with nothing.
2 boxes tied up with string, please,
he said.
Mrs. Sims stared at him. She asked,
You mean 2 empty boxes?
That's right.
Mr. Tappleton replied.
My, these feel light, remarked Mrs. Tappleton.
Certainly they are light. Mrs. Sims prides herself on how light our pies are.
Mr. Tappleton set the table. She called her son.
Kenny, you may make the salad. There are lettuce, carrots, and radishes in the refrigerator. Kenny's face grew pale. Just yesterday, he had emptied the refrigerator and fed all the vegetables to the rabbits in Mrs. Butterworth's class.
How could he tell his mother? He couldn't. So he covered the empty salad bowl with aluminum foil and stuck it in the back of the refrigerator.
When the others went to pick up their relatives at the train station, Jenny stayed behind to mash the potatoes. Every year this was her job. She loved it. This year, I'll make them even better. I use electric mixer. She thought.
Just as Jenny flipped the switch on, the phone rang. It was her best friend, Nora. If there was one thing Jenny loved to do better than mashed potatoes, it was to talk.
Jenny talked and talked and talked to Nora, and she still might be talking today, had not a wet lump of something hit her on the back of the head.
She turned to see what it was. Splat! Another bolt hit her in the face. The mixer was going wild, and mashed potatoes were flying everywhere.
Without even saying goodbye to Nora, Jenny hung up the phone, scrubbed her face, and wiped the mashed potatoes from nearly everything in the kitchen. She finished just as the others came back. Uncle Fritz patted his stomach.
I'm hungry, he said.
I'm as hungry as an elephant.
his grandfather said his grandfather Templeton.
Everyone sat down at the table. Mr. Tappleton went to the oven.
I'll go for the turkey now.
Mr. Tappleton said.
He opened the oven door.
The turkey is gone.
Mr. Tappleton searched under the table, on the table and under the table, and even in the kitchen cabinet. He looked in the sink and in the food closet.
I can't find the turkey anywhere.
Cried Mr. Templeton.
Mrs. Tappleton took a deep breath. She told them how the fine turkey had slipped out the door and down the steps and across the yard and through the gate and down the street, flop, splash, into the pond.
So much for the turkey.
Said Uncle Fritz, and his stomach rumbled a little louder.
Like, never mind. We'll fill up on the trimmings. Said Aunt had a good-naturedly. I'll get the salad, Jenny announced. Jenny set the bowl on the table and peeled off the lemon foil.
Everyone stared at the salad that was not there. I fed it to the rabbits at school.
Confessed to Kenny.
Uncle Fritz was downright cool,
So much for the salad.
said Uncle Fritz, and his stomach rumbled again.
I'm as hungry as 3 elephants.
Said grandfather. Kenny jumped up and said,
We'll have Jenny's mashed potatoes. He bought the pot from the kitchen and lifted the lid.
I was on the phone and the mixer went wild. Jenny said meekly.
So much for the potatoes.
Said Uncle Fritz, and his stomach rumbled again.
I'm as hungry as 4 elephants.
Said grandfather.
The pies, I'll get the pies, cried Mrs. Tappleton. Mrs. Tappleton brought in the boxes, set them down, and untied the string. You brought home 2 empty boxes?
Mrs. Tappleton glared at Mr. Tappleton as he covered his ears.
5 elephants.
Groaned grandfather.
The dining room was quiet. Everyone looked down at the empty table. Uncle Fritz muttered something, but it could not be heard above the rumble of the sun. The tear ran down Jenny's cheek.
No Thanksgiving dinner?
She sniffled.
Nothing to be thankful for.
Said Kenny. Grandmother smiled and said, of course there is something to be thankful for. There is more to Thanksgiving than the turkey and trimmings. Turkeys come and turkeys go, and trimmings can be lost, we know. But we're together, and that's what matters. Not what's served upon the platters.
Mrs. Tappleton jumped up and said,
We have ham and cheese in the refrigerator. I'll help fix the sandwiches.
Offered Mr. Templeton.
Jenny wiped away a tear and said,
I'll get the pickles.
Jenny laughed and said,
oh, and a jar of applesauce for dessert.
And so the Templetons had their Thanksgiving dinner after all. Uncle Fritz's stomach stopped rumbling. Grandfather Templeton ate enough ham and cheese